I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your cattle market summary for the week ending November the 17th, brought to you in part by the International Brangus Breeders Association. Would you like a heavier payload to market at shipping? Brangus and Brangus influenced cattle have proven to offer more pounds at weaning without compromising udder quality in the replacement females. For more information or to find a breeder near you, visit gobrangus.com. The fall rally is over and we have now began our descent down the other side, and it's very convincing. Has been the first week of it anyway, and it looks like we're going to be dipping lower continuously, maybe not as drastic as we did this past week, but on through at least the end of the year. Our feeder cattle, feeding type cattle, early in the year, like in January and February, which are hard calves by then, they usually sell pretty well early in the year. So we may see some relief then, but I'm not sure we're going to see any between now and then. You look at the board for last week, February live cattle, Monday was down 35 cents, Tuesday down $1.25, Wednesday was up 60, which was the only relief they had all week, Thursday down 62, Friday down 45 to end the week with February live cattle at 124.67, down $2.08 for the week. Your December spot live cattle contract ended the week at 118.85. January feeder cattle, Monday was down 20, Tuesday down 307, Wednesday the only reprieve, up 35 cents, Thursday down 35 cents, and then Friday down 217, and that happened before the cattle on feed report come out, although corn was up 6.5 on Friday, which could have had something to do with it, ending at 343 a bushel. But your January feeder cattle ended the week at 151.72, down $5.45 for the week, and that's nearly $10 for 2 weeks there on your January feeder cattle contract. That's some pretty stiff losses there in a short amount of time. Your fats through Thursday, your direct fat cattle trade in your 5-area feeding region, 86,600 head. Your weighted averages on your live steers is going to be close to 119.34. Dress steers close to 189.41. Could be a little bit of scattered sales on Friday, but nothing too consequential there. But you look at last week's trade, your Southern Plains market was 119 all through Texas and Kansas, down $5. Northern Plains held their market together a little bit better than that. They sold from 119 to 120.5, and that 120.5 was primarily on the western side in western Nebraska, Wyoming, places like that. Colorado was mostly 120.5. Your dress sales in the Northern Plains from 188 to 190. That would be $2 to $4 lower on the dress trade, and your Northern Plains live sales $3 to $3.50 lower. Box beef cutout values on the average of last week's trade, they were down pretty significantly, more so on your select than your choice, but choice carcasses had an average trade of 210.22, down 237 compared to the previous week, and your selects 190.72, down 613, and those figures on select and choice cutouts were even lower late in the week. That was the average trade for the week I gave you, almost a $20 spread between choice and select. Slaughter was pretty decent, probably the only decent thing we have to talk about. 639,000 for last week. That was 16,000 better than the previous week and 10,000 better than the same week a year ago. You look at your feeder market, cash feeders in your sale barns were $3 to $8 lower. I'm talking about yearlings and big calves going right on feed. You look at your real-time index based on the 800-pound steer up through your middle 12 states. It ended the week at 152.60. That was down $7.64. That's on your average, 7-day moving average there. That was almost the full extent of the weekly trend lower there. The only bright spots we saw were some featherweight calves, little peewees weighing under 5, especially if they happen to be weaned, which about the only ones of those that would be weaned was maybe some roping calves or something like that were backgrounded. But steady to $3 higher on some of those 3 and 4 weight calves, because guys are still looking for those. They've got a lot of options on them. They've got places to turn them out with a lot of wheat and stockpiled grass and things for a dry winter deal if that's what they want to do. Your cattle on feed report come out on Friday. Not a big shakeup. Your analysts did not bomb it near as bad as they normally do, but the placements, they just cannot seem to understand that we have a lot more cattle around than we have the last year or two, and they need to kind of keep adjusting that way. But your November 1st inventories on feed come in with an actual 106.2% of the same time a year ago, and the estimate was 105.7, so that was within 0.5%, so that's not too bad at all. Your October placements, they did miss those a little bit. They came in at 110.2% of a year ago, and the analyst average guess was 107.1, so about 3% off, which is really close for them, because a lot of times they get 6, 8, 10% off, and then that really shakes things up. But your October marketings came in very close at 105.6% compared to the average analyst guess at 105.4. One thing I noticed on that report, which I don't often look at, but other disappearance, which they keep track of all those numbers, that other disappearance includes death loss, mostly death loss. It also includes taking cattle out of a feed yard and putting them back on grazing, which doesn't happen hardly any time, or taking them out of a feedlot and taking them to another feedlot that are not included in the cattle on feed report, which doesn't happen very often. So it's mostly death loss. Your other disappearance was up 28% compared to the same report a year ago. I'm not saying death loss was up 28%, but it was 28% more other disappearance than the same amount of other disappearance on the same report a year ago. And guys have been having a lot of trouble with cattle, a lot of death loss. A lot of guys just having trouble getting those things straightened up, and they're not seeming to be able to get the chronics out of the way. But that you're hearing everybody talk about that, and even though we've had a hard frost in most major cattle production areas, it's still kind of continuing to be a problem. And normally after you get a good hard frost several times, then you get over a lot of that airborne illness. But this year seems to be really bad, and even the really expensive drugs are not really working on those cattle like they normally do. But you look at coming up this week, Joplin Regional Stockyards on Monday is having a big yearling special. You don't see big yearling specials this time of year, but Joplin Regional Stockyards is expecting 11,000 cattle here this Monday. And that's going to be 100 loads, 100 pot loads of yearlings. And a lot of them will be green yearlings. In that part of the country, you see guys stockpile their fescue in the heat of the summer when the endophytes really are hard on the cattle and hard on their circulation. So they stockpile that grass in the summertime when it gets really hot, and it's a cool season grass. It takes off again. They'll clip it when it's really hot, and then in the fall when it starts growing again, when it starts to get cool, it's really good grazing. So you have a lot of green yearlings in there, and 100 pot loads of yearlings is going to attract some attention. You can watch the Joplin Regional Stockyard sales, all their sales, on dvauction.com, or go to joplinstockyards.com, and you can tie right into the same bidding console, but you can watch and bid there. But we're probably looking at steady to weak on your big volume Monday sales, but if you've got that many yearlings coming in to one place, that's going to attract a lot of buyers and a lot of attention, and hopefully they can hold that market together for all those buyers there in the 4-state area. But you look at a good test of the market late last week. Farmers and Ranchers Livestock in Salina, Kansas, 4 o'clock on Thursday, had 124 head of steers that weighed 824, bring 164.35, and that's probably going to be better than what we see this week. But that's a look at your week's markets from a home DV auction office here in Canyon, Texas. We'll talk to you next week.